Introduction: Acknowledging the Financial Mess. Dave Ramsey begins the Total Money Makeover, not with theories or abstract advice, but with a confession. Years ago, he was the picture of financial success, young, ambitious, and with a net worth that most people only dreamed of. He had built a real estate empire worth over $4 million before the age of 30. On the outside, it looked like he had everything: wealth, status, and security. But underneath, his empire was fragile, built entirely on debt. When the banks demanded repayment and the money flow collapsed, everything crumbled. Ramsey hit rock bottom, losing nearly everything he owned. From that painful experience, he discovered a truth that most people never want to face: debt is not wealth. Debt is a trap that gives the illusion of progress while keeping people chained. His recovery wasn't quick or easy. It required discipline, humility, and a complete change in mindset. He had to rebuild from the ground up, and in doing so, he created the very principles that form the Total Money Makeover. Ramsey points out that his story is not unique. In fact, most Americans are living a similar illusion of prosperity. Credit cards, car payments, student loans, and mortgages create the appearance of financial stability, but behind the curtain lies stress, worry, and vulnerability. Studies show that the average household carries thousands in consumer debt, lives paycheck to paycheck, and has little to no emergency savings. One unexpected expense, one job loss, or one medical emergency could send the entire system crashing down. Why do so many find themselves in this financial mess? Ramsey explains it in simple terms: a lack of discipline, a lack of planning, and the willingness to believe cultural money myths. Society normalizes debt. It teaches people that car loans, credit cards, and student loans are inevitable. It encourages living for the moment instead of building for the future. But this normal is broken. That is why Ramsey insists on a different path, a path that requires discipline, sacrifice, and a proven plan. Discipline means saying no when everyone else is saying yes. Sacrifice means giving up short-term pleasures for long-term peace. And the proven plan comes in the form of Ramsey's baby steps, a simple but powerful sequence of actions that lead from financial chaos to financial freedom. Chapter 1: The Total Money Makeover Challenge. The journey to financial freedom begins with a challenge, not from the outside world, but from within. The first hurdle is confronting the lies people have been told about money and the myths they have chosen to believe. These myths are powerful because they are reinforced by culture, family traditions, and even advertising. To begin a true transformation, one must recognize these myths for what they are: traps that keep people broke. One of the most common lies is that credit cards are a necessity. Society tells us that they are essential for building credit, renting cars, or even making hotel reservations. Yet the reality is that credit cards create dependency and normalize debt. Millions live in a cycle of carrying balances month after month, paying interest, and thinking it is acceptable because everyone does it. But this dependency comes at a cost: financial stress, wasted income on interest, and a distorted relationship with money. Another myth is that debt is normal and even good. The modern world celebrates borrowing as a tool to get ahead. Student loans for education, car loans for transportation, mortgages for homes, and consumer loans for lifestyle. Debt is marketed as a stepping stone, but in truth, it is a chain. Instead of creating wealth, it drains future earnings and robs people of freedom. Ramsey emphasizes that debt is not a tool, it is a burden that steals opportunity. Then there are the get-rich-quick schemes: lottery tickets, multi-level marketing promises, or speculative investments that guarantee overnight wealth. These illusions prey on the desire for quick solutions, but they never deliver lasting results. They distract from the real path to wealth, which is slow, steady, and built on discipline. Once the myths are exposed, the next step in the challenge is taking responsibility. It is easy to blame circumstances, the economy, or bad luck for financial struggles, but until individuals accept that their financial future rests in their own hands, nothing will change. Personal responsibility is the cornerstone of the Total Money Makeover. The moment someone stops making excuses and starts making choices, their financial story begins to shift. Ramsey stresses that transformation requires not only responsibility, but also commitment. A makeover is not a temporary fix. It is a lifelong change. The path ahead demands discipline, persistence, and the willingness to say no when everyone else is saying yes. This is not about living a life of deprivation, but about creating a life of freedom. The challenge, therefore, is not simply about learning new principles, but about reshaping habits, rewiring beliefs, and committing to a long-term vision. It is about rejecting what is normal in society and daring to be different. While most people will remain trapped in debt and stress, those who accept the challenge will rise above, step by step, toward lasting wealth and peace. This chapter sets the foundation. Dispel the lies, take responsibility, and commit fully. The journey won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Chapter 2. Denial. I'm not that out of shape. One of the greatest obstacles to financial transformation is denial. People often walk through life ignoring their money problems, convincing themselves that everything is fine when, in reality, they are drowning in debt. Denial creates a false sense of security, numbing individuals from the truth of their situation and delaying the urgent steps needed to fix it. Just as someone might look in the mirror and convince themselves that a few extra pounds are nothing to worry about, many people glance at their bank statements or credit card bills and shrug off the warning signs. The parallel with health and weight loss is powerful. A person may justify eating poorly by saying they will start a diet tomorrow, or they may avoid stepping on the scale altogether because the truth feels uncomfortable. The same behavior happens with money. People avoid opening bills, refuse to track their spending, or rationalize unnecessary purchases because facing the numbers is too painful. Denial becomes a protective shield against reality, but instead of protecting, it only allows the problem to grow worse. Denial also thrives on comparisons. Many convince themselves they are not that bad because their neighbor, friend, or coworker is in deeper financial trouble. They justify car payments, credit card balances, or student loans because everyone has debt. This herd mentality makes unhealthy behavior seem normal, but normal is broke, stressed, and unprepared for the future. The key to breaking denial is facing the truth head-on. Just as a person committed to better health must step on the scale and accept their current weight, a person committed to financial change must calculate their debt, track their expenses, and see exactly where their money is going. Numbers do not lie. Confronting them can be uncomfortable, even embarrassing, but it is the only way forward. Ramsey emphasizes that denial often hides behind excuses. People say, "I can afford the payments," or "it's just temporary until I get a raise." These justifications are masks that cover unhealthy habits. The reality is that payments eat away at income, and waiting for external change rarely works. Financial freedom begins only when individuals stop pretending and admit that their habits are keeping them stuck. Acknowledging the truth is not about guilt or shame, it is about clarity. Denial keeps people locked in a cycle of borrowing, spending, and hoping for better days. Facing reality provides the foundation for discipline and change. Just as a doctor cannot prescribe treatment without an accurate diagnosis, a financial plan cannot begin without an honest look at the problem. The message of this chapter is simple. Stop pretending. Step out of denial and see your finances for what they truly are. Only then can transformation begin. Just as a person must face the truth about their health to reclaim their body, a person must face the truth about their money to reclaim their future. Denial delays freedom, but honesty opens the door. Chapter 3. Debt is normal. Broke is normal, but it doesn't have to be you. In today's culture, debt has been normalized to the point that living without it seems unusual. From student loans and credit cards to car payments and mortgages, borrowing has become an accepted way of life. Society conditions people to believe that being in debt is simply part of adulthood. Everyone has debt is the mantra that keeps people chained to financial bondage. But while debt may be common, it is not wise. Normal is broke, and broke is not the goal. The system encourages debt dependency. Credit card companies flood households with offers promising rewards and convenience. Car dealerships push financing deals that make vehicles seem affordable, when in reality, they drain cash flow. Colleges and lenders promote student loans as good debt because they supposedly lead to higher earnings later. Even mortgages are advertised as the American dream, regardless of whether someone is financially prepared. These cultural messages convince people that debt is not only normal, but also necessary. The problem is that debt steals freedom. Every payment represents money already spoken for, reducing the ability to save, invest, or respond to emergencies. Debt creates a sense of obligation that limits choices. People stay in jobs they dislike because they must make payments. Families forego opportunities because their income is tied to creditors. Stress builds as bills pile up and financial peace feels unreachable. What is presented as normal is actually a trap. Ramsey challenges this belief head-on. Debt is not a tool, it is a burden. Borrowing money may create the illusion of prosperity, but it is borrowed prosperity, wealth that belongs to the bank. People may drive new cars, live in bigger houses, or enjoy luxuries, but if it all comes with monthly payments, the appearance of success hides the reality of bondage. Breaking free begins with rejecting normal. Just because debt is common does not mean it is wise. The alternative is to live with discipline and patience, saving for purchases, delaying gratification, and refusing to trade long-term security for short-term comfort. While this path requires sacrifice, it leads to genuine financial freedom. Without payments, income becomes a tool for building wealth rather than serving creditors. It is easy to believe that debt is unavoidable because that is the message reinforced everywhere. But history proves otherwise. Generations before lived without credit cards and endless loans. They saved before buying, worked for what they wanted, and lived within their means. What was once the norm can become the norm again for anyone willing to reject the lie that debt is necessary. The lesson is clear. Normal equals broke. If you want a different outcome, you must choose a different path. Debt may be the cultural standard, but it does not have to be yours. By refusing to accept debt as normal, you take the first step towards building a future marked by freedom, stability, and wealth. Chapter 4. Meet the Monster. Confronting Debt Head-On. Debt is more than just numbers on a page. It is a monster that quietly drains life, energy, and opportunity. Many people try to ignore it, rationalize it, or live with it as though it were harmless. But avoiding confrontation only allows the monster to grow larger. Facing debt directly, acknowledging its true impact and committing to eliminate it, is the turning point where transformation begins. The first step is recognizing the weight debt brings into daily life. Every payment reduces financial flexibility. Every interest charge eats away at income. Debt limits the ability to plan for the future because much of tomorrow's money is already spent. It creates pressure that lingers in the background, a constant reminder that you owe someone else. For many, this invisible burden leads to stress, arguments, and sleepless nights. Meeting the monster means refusing to pretend it is harmless. Ramsey emphasizes that debt thrives in secrecy and complacency. People may avoid looking at their balances because the reality feels overwhelming. They may continue making minimum payments, convincing themselves they are managing. But minimum payments are a trap. They keep borrowers in debt for decades while enriching lenders. To confront debt is to shine light on it. Gather all balances, add up the totals, and see the monster for what it really is. Only when the full picture is visible can a plan to defeat it begin. The emotional battle is as real as the financial one. Debt carries shame, frustration, and sometimes denial. But confronting it is not about guilt. It is about responsibility and empowerment. Meeting the monster means declaring, "I will no longer let debt control my life." This mindset shift transforms debt from an untouchable burden into a problem that can be solved. Ramsey also challenges the myths that keep people enslaved. Some believe carrying a balance builds credit. Others assume borrowing is the only way to buy a car, attend college, or own a home. These myths fuel the monster and keep people feeding it. When individuals learn to live without debt, they see these myths for what they are: lies that benefit lenders, not borrowers. The solution is action. Debt will not vanish with hope or intention. It requires deliberate effort. Ramsey's plan, which unfolds in later chapters, provides the steps for destroying the monster piece by piece. But the starting point is commitment, deciding once and for all that debt is unacceptable and must be eliminated. Meeting the monster is both sobering and freeing. It forces people to see the truth, but also empowers them with the possibility of change. While debt may feel overwhelming, it is not invincible. Countless families have faced the same giant and defeated it through discipline and persistence. The same victory is available to anyone willing to confront the problem rather than hide from it. Debt is the monster in the room, but it is not stronger than you. The moment you face it, the process of freedom begins. Chapter 5. 2 more hurdles: ignorance and keeping up with the Joneses. In this chapter, Dave Ramsey identifies 2 of the most common obstacles that prevent people from achieving financial freedom: ignorance and the temptation to keep up with the Joneses. Both are deeply ingrained challenges, but overcoming them is essential for anyone who wants to transform their financial life. The first hurdle is ignorance. Ignorance does not mean a lack of intelligence, it simply means a lack of knowledge. Many people never learn the basic principles of money management. Schools rarely teach personal finance in a practical way, and parents often pass down poor financial habits instead of sound advice. As a result, people enter adulthood without understanding how debt works, why budgeting is essential, or how compound interest can either build wealth or destroy it when attached to credit card balances. Ignorance leads to costly mistakes. For example, believing that a credit card is an emergency fund, assuming that car loans are a necessity, or thinking that renting is throwing money away without evaluating the bigger picture. These misconceptions cause people to repeat financial patterns that keep them stuck. Ramsey emphasizes that ignorance is curable, but only if we acknowledge it and intentionally seek knowledge. Reading, studying, and applying proven financial principles can turn ignorance into wisdom and stability. The second hurdle is the cultural obsession with keeping up with the Joneses. This phrase represents the tendency to compare our lives, possessions, and lifestyle with those around us. It is the pressure to buy a bigger house because friends bought one, to upgrade to a new car because neighbors did, or to live beyond our means in order to project success. Ramsey calls this behavior financially destructive because it traps people in endless cycles of debt while offering no real fulfillment. The Joneses, he reminds us, are often broke themselves, financing their cars, homes, and vacations with debt. Chasing after them leads not only to financial stress, but also to a loss of contentment. True wealth is not about impressing others. It is about having peace of mind, freedom from debt, and the ability to build for the future. Ramsey draws a parallel to fitness here as well. Just as fad diets and shortcuts don't lead to lasting health, trying to maintain appearances without real financial discipline doesn't create stability. Instead, the solution is to live below your means. This requires humility, patience, and a willingness to delay gratification. Driving an older car, living in a modest home, or choosing affordable vacations may not look glamorous, but these decisions free up money to pay off debt and build wealth. Ultimately, overcoming ignorance and the comparison trap requires a mindset shift. We must value long-term stability over short-term image, and we must commit to educating ourselves financially rather than drifting aimlessly with cultural norms. When we stop competing with others and start focusing on our own plan, we make room for real progress. By breaking free from these hurdles, Ramsey shows anyone can redirect energy from chasing appearances into building true financial health. Chapter 6. Save $1,000 fast. The first baby step. Dave Ramsey introduces his practical plan for financial recovery with what he calls Baby Step 1, saving $1,000 as quickly as possible. This step may sound simple, but it is foundational to the Total Money Makeover. Without this first milestone, the rest of the plan becomes difficult to maintain. Why $1,000? Ramsey explains that life is unpredictable. Cars break down, appliances stop working, children get sick, and unexpected expenses appear at the worst times. Without a cushion, these events often drive people deeper into debt. Most families facing such emergencies turn to credit cards or loans, which only compound the financial struggle. The $1,000 emergency fund provides a safety net, giving people breathing room while they begin the debt-free journey. It is not meant to cover every possible emergency, but it is enough to keep small crises from derailing the plan. Ramsey is firm about speed. This money should be saved as quickly as possible, even within a month. He encourages readers to take on extra work, sell unused possessions, cut unnecessary expenses, and temporarily live with extreme frugality. The urgency of this step creates momentum. When people push themselves to save that first $1,000, they prove that change is possible, and this victory builds confidence for the challenges ahead. Importantly, Ramsey clarifies what the emergency fund is not. It is not a savings account for vacations, holiday shopping, or routine bills. It is not a buffer for poor spending habits. It is strictly for genuine emergencies, unexpected situations that would otherwise force someone back into debt. By drawing this boundary, he reinforces the principle of discipline. Ramsey also emphasizes that this first step requires sacrifice. Eating out, new clothes, entertainment, and luxury spending may need to be temporarily cut. He compares the process to someone entering a strict training program, short-term discomfort for long-term health. Just as an athlete must endure conditioning before achieving peak performance, households must endure financial discipline before achieving financial freedom. Some may question whether $1,000 is enough, especially for larger families or higher-cost regions. Ramsey admits it is not a permanent solution, but insists it's a starting point. Later in the plan, the emergency fund will grow much larger, but at this stage, speed is more important than size. The key is psychological as much as financial. Reaching the first step proves commitment and creates momentum. Chapter 7. The Debt Snowball. Tackling Debt Step by Step. Once the $1,000 starter emergency fund is in place, Dave Ramsey turns to the heart of the Total Money Makeover, eliminating debt. He introduces what he calls the debt snowball method, a simple yet powerful strategy for paying off debt in a systematic, motivating way. The concept is straightforward. First, list all debts except the mortgage: credit cards, student loans, car loans, personal loans, everything. Then, order them from smallest balance to largest, regardless of interest rate. While some financial experts suggest paying off the highest interest debt first, Ramsey insists that psychology is more important than math. By starting with the smallest debt, individuals experience a quick win, a sense of accomplishment that fuels momentum for tackling the next one. Here's how it works. You make minimum payments on every debt except the smallest. All extra money, whether from cutting expenses, side income, or budget adjustments, goes toward eliminating that smallest balance. Once it is paid off, you roll the payment amount into the next debt. This creates a snowball effect. As each debt disappears, the freed-up money makes it easier and faster to eliminate the next one. Over time, the snowball grows, gaining speed and power until all non-mortgage debts are gone. Ramsey explains that this process is not just financial, it is deeply emotional. People in debt often feel overwhelmed, paralyzed by the sheer size of what they owe. Starting small allows them to take action, see progress, and build hope. Success breeds confidence, and confidence leads to persistence. By contrast, focusing on the largest or highest interest debts first may feel discouraging, as it could take years before noticeable progress is made. Stories of real people illustrate the method's impact. Families who once felt crushed by dozens of credit cards and loans suddenly find themselves celebrating small victories. Paying off a $500 store card or a $1,200 medical bill may not seem life-changing, but it provides proof that freedom is possible. Each paid-in-full notice becomes fuel for the journey ahead. Ramsey acknowledges that critics call the debt snowball mathematically inferior to the debt avalanche method, which targets high-interest debt first. But he argues that money problems are rarely just about math. They are about behavior. If people were motivated purely by numbers, they wouldn't have gotten into debt in the first place. What matters is sticking to a plan, and the snowball method provides the motivation necessary to stay committed. Discipline is key here. The snowball method only works if individuals resist the temptation to borrow again. Cutting up credit cards, refusing new loans, and adjusting lifestyle choices are essential. Ramsey compares it to breaking an addiction. Success requires not just a new plan, but a new mindset. By the end of this step, households who once struggled with endless monthly payments now experience financial breathing room. The weight of debt begins to lift, and the dream of financial freedom feels achievable. The snowball has started rolling, and with momentum on their side, nothing can stop its progress. Chapter 8. Finish the Emergency Fund, Building Security for the Future. After crushing non-mortgage debt with the debt snowball, Dave Ramsey turns to the next step of the Total Money Makeover, completing a fully funded emergency fund. While the $1,000 starter fund was designed to handle life's minor inconveniences, this next stage builds a true financial safety net. Ramsey recommends saving 3 to 6 months' worth of living expenses, enough to handle major disruptions such as job loss, medical emergencies, or unexpected family crises. This step is vital because debt freedom without security is fragile. Without a cushion, even a single setback could push a family back into borrowing and undo months or years of progress. A job layoff, a car breakdown, or a hospital bill could erase stability in an instant. The full emergency fund acts as insurance against life's storms, except instead of paying premiums to a company, you are paying yourself for peace of mind. Ramsey emphasizes that the size of the fund depends on personal circumstances. A single individual with a stable job might aim closer to 3 months of expenses, while a family with children or an entrepreneur with variable income might need closer to 6 months. The point is not to be precise down to the dollar, but to create a buffer that allows life to happen without fear. Practically, this step requires discipline. The momentum gained from the debt snowball must now be redirected into savings. Instead of sending extra money toward debt, it is funneled into the emergency fund. Ramsey encourages people to save aggressively, cutting back expenses, picking up side work, or reallocating budgets to reach the target as quickly as possible. At this stage, households begin to feel a shift in their mindset. Paying off debt provided relief, but saving a substantial emergency fund provides confidence. It transforms money from a source of stress into a source of strength. People report sleeping better, feeling less anxious about bills, and having a greater sense of control over their lives. It is the psychological equivalent of moving from survival mode to stability. Ramsey also warns against confusing the emergency fund with savings for planned expenses or investments. It should not be used for vacations, new furniture, or even predictable costs like Christmas shopping. The fund exists for true emergencies only, events that are unexpected, necessary, and urgent. Anything else should be handled by separate budget categories or sinking funds. With the emergency fund in place, a family's financial foundation is solid. No longer living paycheck to paycheck, no longer enslaved to creditors, and no longer vulnerable to small disasters, they stand ready for the next phase, building real wealth. This is the turning point where defense shifts to offense. The goal is no longer just survival, but prosperity. Chapter 9: Retirement Investing. Building wealth for the future. With debt eliminated and a fully funded emergency reserve in place, Dave Ramsey shifts the focus from financial defense to offense. This is the step where wealth building truly begins: retirement investing. Ramsey calls this a turning point because it's the moment when money stops being a source of worry and starts becoming a tool for freedom and long-term security. Ramsey teaches that once you've reached this stage, you should invest 15% of your household income into retirement accounts. This balance is deliberate. Less than 15% may not provide enough growth to retire comfortably, while more than 15% may sacrifice resources needed for other priorities, such as paying off a home or saving for children's college. The key is consistency and discipline, not gambling on risky trends or trying to time the market. Ramsey insists that average people without advanced financial training can build wealth if they follow time-tested principles. He recommends focusing on retirement accounts with tax advantages, such as 401ks with employer matches, Roth IRAs, and traditional IRAs. The goal is to maximize tax benefits while investing for steady growth. When it comes to choosing investments, Ramsey strongly advocates growth stock mutual funds with a long track record. He encourages diversifying across 4 categories: growth, growth in income, aggressive growth, and international. By spreading investments, you reduce risk while still benefiting from the market's overall upward trajectory over time. Ramsey frequently points out that the stock market has historically averaged strong returns over decades. While short-term volatility is inevitable, the long-term trend rewards patience and discipline. The greatest danger, he says, comes not from the market itself, but from fear and impatience, pulling out when markets dip or chasing hot investments that promise quick wins but often end in losses. He also stresses the power of compound interest. The earlier one begins, the more wealth multiplies. For example, a 25-year-old who invests steadily can retire a millionaire even on a modest income, while a 45-year-old starting late must invest dramatically more to catch up. This is why Ramsey urges listeners to start as soon as debt and emergency savings are complete. Another critical point is to stay the course regardless of outside noise. Economic downturns, political changes, and media hype can tempt people to panic. Ramsey reminds readers that the wealthy are not those who constantly react, but those who steadily invest through every season. Time in the market, not timing the market, is the path to wealth. Ramsey concludes this step with encouragement. Retirement investing isn't just about money, it's about freedom, the ability to retire with dignity, to enjoy life without financial fear, and to leave a legacy for family and causes that matter. By investing wisely and consistently, anyone can rewrite their financial future. Chapter 10. College Funding: Saving Smart for Children's Education. After securing retirement investments, Dave Ramsey turns to the next major financial goal: college funding for children. This step is not just about avoiding debt, it's about setting the next generation on a foundation of freedom instead of burden. Ramsey stresses that parents must approach college planning with the same discipline as every other step in the Total Money Makeover, by using intentional savings, not loans. Ramsey is clear: student loans are not an option. He believes they are one of the most damaging financial traps for young adults, saddling them with debt before they even begin their careers. To prevent this, he urges families to start saving early. Just as compound interest builds wealth for retirement, it also works powerfully when applied to college savings. The primary tool Ramsey recommends is the Education Savings Account, often referred to as a Coverdell ESA. This account allows parents to invest up to $2,000 per year per child, with tax-free growth when used for qualified educational expenses. While the contribution limit is modest, the power lies in consistent, long-term investing in growth stock mutual funds, the same type he recommends for retirement. For families who want to save larger amounts, Ramsey highlights the 529 College Savings Plan. This plan allows higher contributions and also grows tax-free when used for education. However, he warns against prepaid tuition plans or savings vehicles with limited investment options, as they often underperform compared to growth-focused investments. Ramsey also emphasizes practicality in college planning. He advises parents and students to choose schools they can afford, rather than stretching finances for prestige. Community colleges, in-state universities, and scholarships are valuable tools to minimize costs. He argues that employers care more about skills, work ethic, and character than the name of a school. By selecting an affordable path, families can avoid years of debt and financial stress. A crucial lesson in this step is teaching children personal responsibility. Ramsey encourages involving kids in the process, whether through working part-time jobs, applying for scholarships, or making wise decisions about majors and expenses. He believes that when students contribute to their education, they value it more. Another important warning is not to sacrifice your own retirement to pay for your children's education. Ramsey repeats the principle: you can get a loan for college, but you can't get a loan for retirement. While he insists that student loans should be avoided, he makes it clear that parents jeopardizing their future to fund college is not wise. The balance is to secure your retirement first, then help your children responsibly with what you can afford. In the end, college funding is less about writing a check and more about breaking a generational cycle of debt. By planning ahead, saving wisely, and making grounded choices, parents can give their children the gift of starting adult life free from financial shackles. This, Ramsey says, is one of the greatest legacies a parent can pass on. Chapter 11. Paying off your home early: The Power of a Debt-Free Life. Dave Ramsey describes paying off the mortgage as one of the most powerful milestones in the Total Money Makeover. For many families, the house payment is the largest monthly expense, often consuming a third or more of income. By eliminating this debt, you free up cash flow, reduce risk, and gain a sense of peace that few people ever experience. Ramsey acknowledges that mortgages are often considered good debt, but he challenges this cultural belief. Debt in any form is still a burden that ties income to a lender. Even a low-interest mortgage keeps you from enjoying true financial freedom. The goal, therefore, is not just to own assets, but to own them outright. The strategy he outlines is straightforward. Make paying off your home a focused priority once retirement savings and children's college funds are in place. This typically means attacking the mortgage with extra payments, applying windfalls, bonuses, or side income directly to principal, and avoiding the temptation of refinancing into longer terms. Ramsey suggests using a 15-year fixed-rate mortgage instead of a 30-year one when possible, because it accelerates payoff and saves tens of thousands in interest. Discipline plays a major role in this step. While it may be tempting to invest extra money elsewhere, Ramsey insists that the psychological and financial benefits of a paid-off home outweigh potential investment returns. Without the weight of a mortgage, families can live with less stress, more flexibility, and greater security, especially in times of uncertainty. Ramsey also highlights the emotional rewards. Imagine the feeling of burning the mortgage papers, a symbolic act he encourages families to celebrate. This is not just financial progress, it is a life-changing victory. A paid-off home becomes a cornerstone of stability, allowing you to shift focus from survival to building wealth and generosity. He also warns against common mistakes. One is using a home equity loan or line of credit, which essentially remortgages the house and puts it back at risk. Another is buying a house too large or too expensive, stretching your budget thin and making early payoff nearly impossible. Ramsey emphasizes buying modestly, living below your means, and channeling savings into accelerating the payoff. Once the house is fully owned, the transformation is significant. No house payment means greater cash flow to invest, give, or enjoy. Retirement becomes easier because living expenses are drastically reduced. Families can withstand financial storms, job loss, or medical emergencies without fear of foreclosure. Most importantly, this step represents the culmination of years of sacrifice and discipline, the moment when financial freedom feels truly tangible. Ramsey concludes that while paying off a home early may seem radical in a culture that normalizes debt, it is one of the smartest, most liberating decisions a family can make. A paid-for home doesn't just provide shelter, it provides freedom, peace of mind, and the foundation for a future of abundance. Chapter 12. Building Wealth Like Crazy: From Stability to Legacy. At this stage of the Total Money Makeover process, the foundation has been laid. No consumer debt, an emergency fund in place, retirement savings growing, children's college funds secure, and the mortgage paid off. With financial stability achieved, it's now time to accelerate into the wealth-building phase. Dave Ramsey describes this as the season where discipline, once a burden, becomes a reward. The principle is simple. When you no longer owe money to anyone, every dollar you earn becomes a powerful wealth-building tool. Instead of sending large portions of income to creditors, you are free to direct your resources into investments that compound and grow. This is where financial freedom transitions into financial abundance. Ramsey emphasizes the power of compound growth. By consistently investing in growth-oriented mutual funds, retirement accounts, and other vehicles, your money begins to work harder than you ever could. At this point, investing 15% of income is not just the baseline. Many families can accelerate contributions to maximize long-term returns. Ramsey also highlights diversification, spreading investments across different funds to reduce risk while maximizing potential. Another aspect of this phase is intentional generosity. Ramsey insists that true wealth is not measured merely by net worth, but by the ability to make a difference in the lives of others. Giving, whether through tithing, charitable donations, or personal acts of generosity, not only blesses recipients, but also enriches the giver. Financial freedom allows you to shift your perspective from self-preservation to service, leaving a legacy of kindness and impact. A critical warning Ramsey provides in this chapter is about lifestyle inflation. It's easy, once debt-free, to start upgrading cars, homes, and vacations. While enjoying the fruits of your hard work is encouraged, reckless spending undermines long-term goals. Staying disciplined ensures that wealth accumulation remains sustainable. The goal is not just temporary affluence, but a secure, lasting legacy. Ramsey also introduces the concept of legacy planning. This involves more than money. It's about values, principles, and vision for future generations. A well-crafted estate plan, wills, and intentional teaching of financial discipline to children ensures that wealth serves rather than spoils. He emphasizes that passing down money without wisdom leads to ruin, but combining resources with strong principles empowers the next generation to thrive. The emotional transformation in this phase is profound. No longer burdened by survival or debt, families begin to dream bigger, pursue passions, and live with greater confidence. Money becomes a tool rather than a master, and life is no longer dictated by financial fear. In summary, this chapter represents the culmination of the Total Money Makeover process. From financial chaos to stability and finally to abundance, the journey proves that anyone, regardless of starting point, can build extraordinary wealth with discipline and patience. The ultimate goal is not just to live well, but to give well, ensuring that wealth becomes a blessing for generations to come. Chapter 13. Live like no one else, enjoying and sharing the fruits of financial freedom. Dave Ramsey concludes the Total Money Makeover with his famous phrase, "Live like no one else, so later you can live and give like no one else." This chapter ties together the journey from financial chaos to ultimate freedom, showing what life looks like when discipline, sacrifice, and perseverance have paid off. Living like no one else means you've walked a different path from the majority. While most people chose credit cards, car loans, and consumer debt, you chose sacrifice, delayed gratification, and hard work. Now, at the end of the journey, you are free to enjoy the benefits without guilt or fear. You own your home, you have no debt, your retirement and children's futures are secure, and wealth is growing. One of the joys of this stage is the ability to enjoy life fully. Travel, hobbies, experiences, and even luxuries are no longer financed with debt, but are paid for in cash, allowing you to enjoy them without financial stress. Ramsey reminds readers that this isn't about being miserly, it's about being wise. Having gone through years of discipline, it's not only acceptable but healthy to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Equally important is the ability to give generously. Ramsey emphasizes that this is the pinnacle of financial freedom, transforming money from a tool of survival into a tool of blessing. When you're no longer worried about bills or creditors, you can focus on impacting lives, supporting charities, funding missions, helping families in need, or even creating foundations that outlive you. Generosity, Ramsey argues, brings a joy that material possessions never can. Ramsey also highlights the importance of teaching and inspiring others. Your financial journey becomes a testimony and a roadmap for friends, family, and future generations. By modeling discipline, responsibility, and generosity, you help break cycles of financial dysfunction and empower others to follow in your footsteps. However, he cautions against falling back into old habits. Financial freedom can make people complacent, and wealth can be quickly destroyed if not managed wisely. Maintaining habits of budgeting, intentional spending, and consistent giving ensures that freedom lasts a lifetime. At its core, this final chapter is about freedom of choice. You no longer live under the pressure of creditors or the weight of financial worry. You get to decide how to spend your time, how to enjoy your money, and how to invest in things that truly matter. The Total Money Makeover ends with a vision, a life of peace, security, generosity, and joy. Ramsey assures readers that while the path is not easy, it is worth it. By embracing discipline and living counterculturally, you unlock a future most only dream about. This is the reward for living like no one else, complete financial freedom and the power to live and give abundantly. Conclusion: The Total Money Makeover Lifestyle. Dave Ramsey closes The Total Money Makeover with a reminder that financial transformation is not simply about strategies or numbers. It is about embracing an entirely new lifestyle. He stresses that while the baby steps are simple, they are not easy. They require persistence, sacrifice, and the willingness to resist cultural pressures that glorify debt and instant gratification. The conclusion serves as both a recap of the journey and a motivational call to action for readers to live differently from the majority and reap the rewards of financial peace. First, Ramsey revisits the baby steps, the proven step-by-step process that has helped millions escape the burden of debt and build wealth. Starting with baby step 1, the $1,000 starter emergency fund, readers are reminded of the importance of having a small cushion to prevent life's inevitable bumps from derailing progress. Baby step 2, the debt snowball, is emphasized as a turning point where people free themselves from the weight of consumer debt through focus and momentum. Baby step 3 builds a fully funded emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses, providing stability and peace of mind. From there, the focus shifts to long-term growth, investing 15% of income in retirement, baby step 4, saving for children's education, baby step 5, paying off the mortgage early, baby step 6, and finally reaching baby step 7, where wealth is built and generosity becomes the norm. Ramsey stresses that perseverance is key. Too often people start strong but lose motivation when progress feels slow or when temptations creep in. He compares the process to running a marathon. The early miles may be exciting, but endurance is required to reach the finish line. Each baby step brings its own challenges, yet those who stay the course eventually experience freedom that most never achieve. Ramsey encourages readers to visualize what life could look like without payments, without financial fear, and with the ability to give generously. This vision, he says, should fuel their determination when the journey becomes difficult. The conclusion also delivers a strong call to action. Ramsey challenges readers not to merely admire the plan or nod in agreement, but to take real steps today. He points out that knowledge without action changes nothing. Discipline, consistency, and the refusal to compromise are what transform lives. Readers are urged to commit fully, to make sacrifices willingly, and to embrace the discomfort of delayed gratification, knowing that the reward is lasting financial security and freedom. Finally, Ramsey reminds readers that the Total Money Makeover is not just about money. It is about regaining control of one's life, marriage, and future. Financial peace creates room for stronger relationships, reduced stress, and the joy of living with purpose. With intentionality, anyone, regardless of past mistakes, can choose a new path. In the end, Ramsey leaves readers with hope and urgency. Freedom is possible, but only for those who act. The challenge is clear. Commit to financial discipline, follow the baby steps, and experience the transformation of a lifetime. If you found this summary of the Total Money Makeover helpful, don't just stop here. Take action today. Hit the like button if this inspired you. Subscribe for more life-changing book summaries on money, mindset, and success. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Your financial freedom starts with one decision, so make that choice now.